Welcome back to the MovieBabble Podcast, the only podcast that loves you 3000. This week you've got myself, Collin, and I'm joined by Nick and Brennan as we break down the opening weekend for Avengers Endgame. So beware, because there are spoilers abundant. And, as always, you can check us out online at MovieBabbleReviews.com.
I thought Hulk, just the weird thing they did with Hulk, it was weird to look at. I mean, I got used to it after a while. The first time I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, that's weird." It was too realistic almost.
Yeah, I agree for a little bit, but I think the character was great. I think he was hilarious.
I think so too. That was just something funny, but yeah,
Paul Rudd had some good delivery, man. I think he's a funny guy. He's funny.
Paul Rudd's just like good in everything.
I mean, I nailed my 3 predictions for what would happen to the big 3, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
What were they again? You said that Cap wasn't going to die, right?
I said that Iron Man would die, Captain America would find some way to go back in time, and then Thor would become a Guardian of the Galaxy. And I nailed all 3 of those. So
that's pretty good.
If you need your future predicted, let me know.
Did anyone anyone feel a little emotional or what?
There was a guy 2 seats next to me that cried for probably 30 minutes straight.
The first viewing, I didn't like. It's more of shock the first viewing. So I mean, I teared up a couple of times, I must admit, but it's more of a shock in the first viewing. But the second viewing, I did cry. I did. But it's just it's not like a super it's emotional, obviously, but it's more of just saying goodbye to the saga, right?
Yeah, I thought I got a little. I didn't get choked up, but when I saw Chris Evans as an old man, I was just like, "Oh, poor guy."
Is it just me, or did he look a lot like Clint Eastwood?
A little bit.
That's what it was. I was trying what does he look like? And he was really convincing us. The makeup was really good on him. He had the tired voice, or just kind of "Oh, I'm here. I'm an old guy."
The thing that blew me away the most was the fact that they got all those fucking all the not the main Avengers or the main heroes or the main people from Infinity War, but getting all these other people back for reshoots, like Robert Redford, Michael Douglas, Natalie Portman. They got everybody back. How do you do that?
I feel like Natalie Portman's I feel like was unused footage.
Yeah, you think it was? Yeah, it could have been.
There was
added.
She's in the one part in the hallway, and that was definitely a stand-in.
Yeah, but then she gets up from the bed, and it's right on her face.
Yeah, and then she turns her back, and then Rocket comes into the picture, and they cut away. I feel like it was unused footage, probably, but and she looks a little younger, I think.
Did you guys sit for the credits at all? Did you see those the signatures?
I saw that.
Did.
They're cool. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, I heard there wasn't any end credit scenes or whatever, so I was like, all right, I've been here for 3 hours, so I need to leave.
I like that Rene Russo had more to do in this movie than she did in either of the 2 Thor movies she was in.
Yeah, it was funny. That was the thing where I was like, I should be caring more about this scene, but I just can't get over how fat Thor is right now.
Yeah.
Peter laughed a lot, the one that I was in.
Yeah, mine too.
It was funny at first, but it wore its welcome within about 30 seconds for me.
I understand the route they took, though. Maybe they overdid the jokes all the time, but I didn't dig it, but I didn't mind it. I thought it was fine. I accepted it. But are you a big Thor fan or what?
Not really until the last 2 movies, or from Ragnarok and Infinity War.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
I really liked what they did with him in those movies. And then, I get that he was more of the focus in Infinity War and not so much in this movie, but it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't really fit kind of where he was at.
Fair enough.
Last movie.
I just think it's an odd choice. It was just weird. I thought it was gonna be a sight gag. It's oh haha, he's down in the dumps and he got fat, but then the next scene he'll be like a thing of lightning will come down and he'll be fine or whatever. But
yeah,
it was just weird. It just didn't fit the movie. On their own, those scenes are kind of funny, but I was just all right, this just feels like something out of Ace Ventura or something like that. It just didn't feel like we go from everyone wallowing in like how sad they are and how meaningless everything is, and it's just like, oh, I'm fat. And it's like, oh, okay.
No, I didn't mind it. I must say, I didn't mind it.
That's fine. Whatever.
I understand. Different views. I see. It was a good time though. I'm planning to go again at some point.
Like seeing Cap with like the hammer, it's like, it's like the coolest thing. Just like there were so many cool like, just like holy shit moments in this movie.
Yeah.
We're just like, this is the best. Movies are awesome, you know?
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we can get started.
You ready? We'll
Is there
save it for
a
the
top
pod.
5 this week? I think there's just one.
There's a top one.
There's a top one. And Captain Marvel jumping up to
Yeah,
two.
Marvel
they're doing great.
had a really low dip, though.
Yeah. It actually had a boost last weekend. It went up last weekend.
Yeah. And then La Llorona just got slaughtered.
Movies got murdered this weekend. Look at this, 91% Hellboy drop. Oh my god!
I was trying to go see Hellboy this weekend, but then it was like on all the theaters near me. It was just like showing at weird times because all the theaters are open like super late because of Endgame, so it would be playing at like 9:30 in the morning and then like 11:45 at night, and I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'll wait to VOD for Hellboy.
Yeah, I finally went and saw Pet Sematary last week, and then once I get through this week, I only have 2 days of class next week, and then I'll be done. So I'll start to catch up with everything again.
Yeah,
I'm done completely. So
I saw Little Woods today, which I think both of you guys might enjoy. A really good movie.
It was good.
It's with Tessa Thompson and Lily James.
Oh, cool.
It's really
that was
really
all
good.
I needed to know.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like it's like Tessa Thompson's like she's got like 5 days left of probation. She gets sucked back into selling drugs. It's really good. Really good movie.
So you didn't go see Missing Link?
What's that?
So you didn't see Missing Link, or you saw both?
I just saw that too. I saw that today as well.
Oh, okay. How was that?
Missing Link was. I mean, it's like incredibly inconsequential.
Right.
You don't need to see it or like wait till like streaming or whatever. But it's perfectly enjoyable. Like it's Leica and it's really well done, and it's just
pretty much what you expected.
Yeah, it's just perfect, like perfectly delightful, and just totally like it totally just works, and that's about it. But
yeah, cool.
It's really enjoyable.
Cool.
But yeah, you guys want to get into it?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump in. So breaking down the box office results this week, at number 1, no real surprise here. Avengers Endgame, with the biggest opening weekend of all time, had $350 million domestic and a little over $1.2 billion worldwide, which is absolutely insane. Followed by Captain Marvel. So Disney and Marvel are taking the top 2 spots. Captain Marvel with $8 million. Curse of La Llorona in its second week with $7.5 million. Breakthrough with $6.3 million in the number 4 spot. And Shazam rounds out the top 5 with $5.5 million. So superheroes are kind of dominating right now, especially Marvel. We talked
that's an understatement.
They're doing more than dominating. Yeah, we've all seen it. I know we're probably going to talk a little bit of spoilers if you're one of the 5 people in the world that hasn't seen it already. You might want to fast forward a little bit, but I don't know. I feel weird about this movie. I really enjoyed it for most of it, but there are just some things that don't sit well with me. I enjoyed really the meaningful arc they gave Tony and they gave Steve Rogers, but I can't get over what they did to Thor. I just feel like they wasted a lot of the potential that he had coming off of Ragnarok and Infinity War, and they kind of continued with his Furious Warrior arc for about the first 15 minutes of the movie, and then that's over, and then he's just a gag, and he cries for most of the rest of the movie. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
That's definitely going to be I think it's already starting on Twitter and everything, where that's just going to be a major talking point about what they do with Thor in this movie. I'm with you on this. I don't really get it. It just felt like a different movie to me personally. It just felt like something weird, out of some weird comedy that probably would have been cut out of like Ragnarok. It just feels like something Taika Waititi would like try, and like they'd start filming and be like, this really didn't work. So that was weird, but let's just like run down like just a couple of the records that Endgame set this week. So we have largest Thursday opening, widest opening in general in terms of theaters, largest Friday opening, largest Saturday, largest Sunday, highest domestic opening weekend, highest movie market share of the week with 90% of the total box office, just highest per theater average for a wide opening. I can go on and on. Fastest to 250 million. Well, it's only 2 movies at this point, but fastest to 350 million, which is just itself. And then we have highest international opening, which was previously awarded to The Fate of the Furious, which is just an odd thing there. Highest worldwide opening weekend. I could just keep going, but this is just, no matter what you think of the movie itself, like this is like an unprecedented cultural event that we may never see again. Like this is kind of crazy to me.
100%. I think that we all expected it to dominate. There's no doubt about that. This film was going to obliterate records. This film was going to do big things, but it even did more than we expected. This film pushed the limits. I mean, $350 million in its first weekend domestically is just unheard of. I mean, you look at Infinity War, it opened up to $257 million last year. That's a huge opening weekend. But to think that this film would make $100 million more almost in its first weekend, I would not have thought that. I wouldn't have guessed that at all. It's insane, and I think that the chase for Avatar's top spot all time is definitely on, and it's definitely might happen. It might happen.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting that, I mean, we're working off the Sunday estimates right now, so like this number, this 350 million. I mean, when the numbers get this high, it's kind of really difficult to really pinpoint exactly what it's going to do. So we could even see this movie jump up even higher tomorrow when the actuals come in. Like it is just crazy to think about. I think Black Panther had a similar thing where it said it opened around like 180, 190, and then it shot up to like 202 or 208 where it normally ended up. But this is just crazy to think about. And Brennan, you were quick to say this movie was probably going to make over 300 million in its opening weekend, and that just to kind of hear you just be amazed at how well it did is just kind of just it shattered just like high end expectations, which is incredible to me. I mean, 1.2 billion in a worldwide opening weekend. I mean, even if it just doubles or just has like a 2.5 multiplier, which is very, very possible, like this movie is gonna easily break Avatar, that is so crazy to me. I can't wrap my head around this.
I feel like this is the type of movie that might be, well, it definitely will be very top heavy, right? Very front loaded.
Oh, probably, yeah.
But there are so many sellouts this weekend that I can almost guarantee that this movie is going to have make a lot of money next weekend by people who couldn't quite get in this weekend. It's going to have great weekday numbers. It's going to have great next weekend numbers. But I think after the first 2 weekends is when we'll start to see it drop. Who knows? This could be the movie that calls for multiple viewings, just because of how magnificent it is, like the scale of this film. So we'll see. But I think that this definitely has a great shot at passing it, and I would definitely predict that it will pass Avatar.
Yeah, there's so much shit in this movie. like you definitely need to go back and like watch this like many times. And the one thing I was interested to see, because it's 3 hours 2 minutes long, which is ridiculously long. And I was wondering what type, it's going to be shown less and less show times just throughout the day just because of how long it is. And then literally every theater chain was like, nah, hold my beer. And so now they have, there's some AMCs that were just never closed. Like, they were open for 72 hours throughout the entire weekend because they just knew that people wanted to see it. There's showtimes near me at 3 a.m, which is just crazy to think about. And it was obvious that people wanted when the tickets first sold, every ticket seller crashed to their websites, basically exploded. And so the thirst for this movie was always there, but it is so nuts to just see it come to fruition. We can't make a big enough deal about how big a deal this is. This is just so crazy.
Yeah, I was a doubter at first as to whether or not it could outpace Avatar, but after this weekend, I don't know anymore. Like it's so big, it's hard to comprehend like what's happening.
It's just we are in such unprecedented territory here. Like I literally have no idea what could happen. Like it's very much in play, but who knows? Maybe everyone just wanted to see it opening weekend, or I don't. It's just it just boggles my mind. Like these numbers, like I laughed when I saw it because it just looked like a typo. You know, like it looks like whoever runs like Box Office Mojo put a 3 in front of everything instead of a 2 when they were just typing it out really fast. Like it's just so crazy to me.
I mean, if you wanna really point out the magnitude of this, I mean, we talked about this before we came on, but this film is already the 18th highest grossing film of all time. 5 days, 5 days in. This film opened up to more than Civil War opened up to, more than Captain Marvel. Sorry, not more than it opened up to, but more than its overall gross. This film's opening weekend worldwide has made more money than Captain America: Civil War overall. That is incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, and we've saw Captain America: Civil War as like a precursor to this because that was the first time when they really threw like a bunch of characters into the same movie, and it's just that movie looks quaint at this point. I mean, I guess we can just go into spoilers now because Collin broke the barrier a little bit there soon. So let's just go into it. Let's just go straight into it.
Yep.
I mean, it's just when you have Spider-Man riding a Pegasus, and then and while there's like thousands of billions of other characters just fighting below, like watching Tony Stark like make a suit out of metal scraps just looks like it's like light years ago, you know, like this movie is so batshit insane that I like it. Like Collin, it doesn't really all work for me. Like there's some moments I could have done without Fat Thor. It just felt like a different movie, and that like it just kind of felt a little all over the place. But I mean, like, what can you expect? This movie was going for broke at literally every turn, and you have to admire it for that. Like this, it's just crazy.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of criticism about it being fan service, and in a lot of ways, I'll agree with that. Like there are moments in the movie that are only there because like they're cool. Like they don't really serve any purpose for anything. But at the same time, you know, this is 11 years since Iron Man. This is, I think, the 10th appearance of Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. The 22nd movie in the franchise. Like it feels very earned at this point. Like we've sat through the Thor: The Dark Worlds of this franchise to get to the point where we can watch Ant-Man pick up Professor Hulk, and then like every woman with superpowers swarm on Spider-Man, and it's just insane how much stuff happens in this movie.
Yeah, I'll say I don't think personally, like I understand. Yeah, there's fan service 100% in this film, but you're right, it's definitely earned. For me, I really dug the film. It's not my favorite MCU movie. It's probably top 3 for me. It is definitely top 3 for me because I really did dig this movie, and I think one of the best words to describe it as is satisfying. I think that it really did feel like a good tie-up for many characters, I would say. So that's why I really did enjoy this film, and I think it was paced really well. We were talking about it beforehand. It didn't really feel like 3 hours. The film goes by pretty good. It's paced pretty well.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what everyone felt. I mean, I looked at the cinema score for this movie is an A+. Mm-hmm. That's only the third MCU movie to get that score. So I mean, we were talking before we came on. This movie, that 3 hours really goes by because each hour just feels like it's a completely different thing going on. Like we have like all the Avengers are stuck in the leftovers for a little bit, where they're just like wallowing in self-pity because everyone else like disappeared. And then it turns into like a time travel movie, and then it just turns into like a Lord of the Rings Battle of Helm's Deep mixed with just everything Marvel ever in its third act. And there's just like little bits in this movie. Like I totally forgot that the Ancient One was in this movie, and just like there's just all these crazy little bits, and like Robert Redford shows up, and like there's just so much to this, and it's crazy. I think. And if any franchise ever earned this type of movie, it was obviously the MCU because it's just all over the place, and I really enjoyed it for that. There's some things that just don't really work for. I didn't need all the going back into older movies and things like that. That's when that's when it truly felt like fan service, and I felt like it was a little much. But I mean, you can live with it with this movie because it's, in the grand scheme of things, that's like half an hour out of a 3-hour movie. Mm-hmm. So like there's just so much going on that it just overwhelms you with cool shit, you know?
Yeah, I think besides Thor, probably my biggest complaint with it is how they handled Black Widow. And so if you look at, she has the least amount of screen time out of all of the original Avengers, and has a considerable amount lower than even like Ant-Man and Nebula, and I think even lower than Rocket Raccoon. And I don't know, she's been around since Iron Man 2, so that was 2010. And granted, she's never really been the star of everything, but I feel like she was just kind of pushed to the side, and then when they needed somebody to throw off a cliff, she was just kind of the easiest target because they had put so much effort into Hawkeye earlier in the movie that they couldn't really throw him off. So I don't know. I just wish she could have gotten a little bit more focused of a send-off, maybe.
Did anyone else think that the editing of that sequence was off? Because when I was watching it, it almost felt like when they like cut to like Black Widow at the bottom of the cliff, it felt like a comedy cut, or just like it cut straight to her, just like her just brains like splattered all over. And I was like, oh, like it felt something out of like The Naked Gun. It was just like really silly. Whereas like, and like Infinity War, if you guys remember, they have like Thanos with the tear coming down his face, and then it slowly like it morphs into Gamora at the bottom of the cliff. It just felt like it was just very it was just really abrupt, and it just I felt bad because I immediately laughed in the theater. It just that was one of the sequences that also just didn't work for me because I just thought it was really funny how Hawkeye shoots an exploding arrow at her. Just like, no, I want to die. Like that just kind of made me laugh. But maybe that's me being a cynical asshole. I don't know. But it's just what did you think, Brennan?
Yeah, I've seen the film twice so far, and I didn't really pick up on like how the editing was of showing revealing her at the bottom. I think that the build up to that was good, like kind of the back and forth between the two of them, because you do expect it to be Hawkeye, considering kind of the person that he's become. That's kind of what they were shooting for, right? That you would expect him to go over.
Right.
But yeah, I'm pretty indifferent to that because I didn't really pick up on kind of the editing choice of how they revealed her at the bottom. But maybe by third watch, I'll look for that.
it's a nitpick, probably. I'm sure for most people, like for 99.99% of people, like that scene worked totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just all right. So I think we'll go around. What was your guys' favorite moment from the movie?
I'm gonna go with the easy one. Cap picking up the hammer and then just completely owning Thanos for a solid minute.
That's fine.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was pretty awesome. I was pretty. I can't lie. The feelings after the film, I wasn't uplifted at all. I felt pretty depressed, actually. It's not a movie that maybe, like, if I had to choose an MCU movie to watch, this probably wouldn't be that high on my list, despite the fact that I really enjoyed the film. I just I don't know. It's kind of it didn't bum me out, but it's sad by the end, just for me personally. But my favorite moment of the film, I don't know. I really do like Cap's send off at the end. I mean, there's so much in this movie, right? It's insane. So much happens. Your tweet there, Nick, was the best. It's the award for the most movie in a movie.
Yeah, it was something like it's the wins the award for the movie that has the most movie in movie history or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna go with a little bit more of a sweeter part of the film, and I'm gonna say I really did enjoy the last little scene there of how the movie ended with Cap and getting to go back and see Peggy there, be with her.
Yeah, that was pretty cute.
Yeah,
it's pretty sweet.
And it was nice to see the Russos really send off, because they're done with Marvel and send it off with Captain America at the end.
Yeah, shout out to Joe Russo for his really good performance in that help group in the first act. Did you guys realize that was him? I was like, oh, you're the director. I I thought he was really good in that part.
Because he cameoed in the 2 Captain America movies they directed, and then he was in Infinity War, and they also brought back the Community cameos, which I thought was cool.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's funny.
Yeah, because the Russos got Winter Soldier because they directed one of the big paintball episodes of Community, and so they normally throw Community actors in, and so they had 2 of them in this movie. So that was a highlight for me.
Yeah, that's really funny. And then they're going to be able to do whatever they want from now on, which is really cool. They deserve a rest.
They have $3 billion movies.
Yeah, they filmed both of these movies back to back, and I know there's like a lot of stuff in this movie that I just could deal without, but this is one of the more impressive directing feats like you could like ever, honestly, because there's just so many moving parts and probably so many egos on set. Like it's kind of incredible to see how many like celebrities and A-list actors are like tied to the MCU. And like there's just so many crazy things going on. Like the fact that this movie works at all is like kind of amazing.
Yeah.
What would be your favorite part there, Nick? Let's hear yours.
My favorite part. I mean, I definitely have to go with Cap with Mjolnir. That was just like this is so like this is just the best. Like this is just like everything I could have ever wanted. But other than that, being different here, what am I gonna say? I mean, that moment of when Spider-Man comes back and he's just doing Spider-Man things, and he falls onto Valkyrie's Pegasus. I just thought that was like the coolest thing, because he's one of the few superheroes left in this franchise that is still in awe with the idea of being a superhero. So like when he does cool shit, he's just like, oh, this is like the coolest thing ever. And like me in the audience, I'm like, yes, it is. So I love everything Spider-Man does, and that's probably why Homecoming is like one of my favorite MCU movies. I need to watch this movie like 2 or 3 more times just to like soak everything in, because I'm sure like there's just so much stuff in here that like I just completely like brushed by me. It's crazy.
Yeah, this was a pretty good movie. Overall, there's just so much to try and pull out of it. It's
the biggest cultural event as far as movies go, and probably ever. Like it's crazy, and it's really cool to be a part of it all. Like it's just everyone talking about it and everyone having seen it. That's kind of fun. Like you don't get that for, I don't know, Hellboy or whatever.
Right.
So tough beat for Hellboy.
Yeah, I don't think Hellboy's going to get close to the $1 billion weekend. That...
Yeah. I don't know. There's still hope. One
thing I wanted to point out here was that's the thing too. It's a huge cultural event because of the hype that went into the lead up as well. Because you look at some of the other films that have been kind of huge standouts and all time films. Like you look at the top 2 right now of all time, Avatar, then Titanic. Those were not movies that had a ton of hype going into it. Sure, they were hyped a lot, but that was more of a word of mouth. This is something new, and they just had legs forever. Same with films like E.T., Jaws, Jurassic Park. There's 3 Spielberg movies right there. But those are films that, sure, they had hype going forward, but nothing has, I think, ever had hype quite like this movie.
I really hope that this movie beats Avatar, because I heard someone say this one time where it was like it's like the most powerful, or like the movie that made the most money that has literally no like cultural relevance. Like, when was the last time you heard someone talk about Avatar in regards to something other than how much money it made? You know what I mean? Or how insignificant it is. So yeah, this movie needs to beat it, because whatever you say about the movie, like it's making a huge impact everywhere, which is kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, we really probably won't see much like this, other than maybe Star Wars. I don't think Star Wars 9 will be nearly as big as this, but I remember I worked at a movie theater when The Force Awakens came out, and that was a huge cultural thing as well. That I thought there will never be another movie that has this much hype going into it, and yeah, we were wrong.
Well, maybe the next thing is in another 11 years when we have our next crazy MCU thing with like Galactus or something like that as the big bad. Maybe that's like the next time where it makes 500 million opening weekend when because inflation's going insane. Maybe we'll see.
Yep. As we kind of wrap up with Endgame, I do want to point out that Aquaman got a lot of buzz for how much money it was earning, right? I would like to point out that Endgame outgrossed Aquaman in a single weekend. So DC had a small victory, but that's kind of been taken from him.
That's amazing.
And I don't know. I think when we come back next week, I think Endgame's going to be in the top 5 of highest grossing movies of all time. It's got
okay. I was like, top 5. That's probably a good. That's probably a good bet.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it'll be in the top 5 next week, as far as the weekend goes. But I think it'll overtake Jurassic World.
Yeah, I think Breakthrough is going to beat it next week, probably. Breakthrough's got serious legs.
Because really. Yeah, Infinity War and The Force Awakens are pretty close together. They're both just a little bit over $2 billion.
Right.
I don't think Endgame will reach $2 billion by next weekend, but I mean, we didn't expect it to reach $350 million this weekend, and it still did. So, who knows?
We'll see.
So, anything else play at the theaters this weekend?
I don't think so.
There was this other Marvel movie, Captain Marvel. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. But came in just slightly below Endgame with a cool movie.
Oh God!
Kudos to Disney because it coming out in March, like it just built hype for Endgame and it just stayed in theaters. And I mean, obviously it's number 2 this week. Mm-hmm. I mean, quite a bit of a margin there. But it's just it's crazy to think about how this movie came out in March and it's still playing and it's number 2 in the box office. That just kind of shows just how much we love the MCU in general, and good for Captain Marvel. It's hanging in there. Its domestic gross is 413 million, which is only 63 higher than Endgame. But good on Captain Marvel. It's hanging in there.
Yeah, one thing I'd point out is we when it first came out, when Captain Marvel first came out, we really talked about how much of a bump would this film get when Endgame comes out, and I think that definitely this film is seeing a bump. I mean, 8 million for the weekend is quite low, but for a film that has been out for a long time, that's pretty good. I mean, you have only an 11% drop from last weekend, and last weekend the film saw a boost from the weekend before, so there's definitely a bump there. So I think that's one thing to point out.
Yeah, and I think it really has kind of along those lines has 2 things going for it. Is you have people that want to watch, MCU movies leading into Endgame, and then you have people that can't get into Endgame, and you can literally go see 2 of the characters from Endgame in their own movie. So, you get previews and then you get overflows for it. So it really worked out in Disney's favor. They've definitely forgotten about the losses from Dumbo at this point. They've recouped everything.
They're doing okay. This little indie shop known as Disney is doing just fine. And I have nothing else to add to Captain Marvel.
Yeah, there's not really a lot to go over there. We've kind of beaten this one to death in the 8 weeks since it released. But moving on to stuff we didn't talk about last week, because we did take a break, is The Curse of La Llorona, which I haven't seen. Don't really plan on seeing, but I don't know if you guys have spent much time with it.
I was the unlucky soul who saw it, and it's not good, and it deserves that 71.5% drop that it got, because it sucks. It's just, we've been down this road before. It's just jump scare after jump scare, and they're kind of lazy jump scares, and it's just, I mean, it's at this point, it's everyone knows it's part of the Conjuring universe, and it kind of has like a couple connections there. It doesn't really play into the movie, but nevertheless, it's folded into this whole universe, and that's kind of its main selling point. And that's like 2 seconds of like raw footage of it, because they just like flashed to Annabelle in the movie. And I think there's a connecting character. The priest playing in it was also an Annabelle, but whatever. This movie is just not very good. I guess if you're like a 13-year-old and it's like, oh, let's go see a horror movie, and like you bring like your date and like you're like looking for them to like hide their eyes, but like and you're like, yeah, like whatever, and you could know from there. But the La Llorona is just not a good movie, and it's just I think its drop was definitely Endgame, where it was probably going to drop 60 to 65% anyway, but it's just people just don't care about this movie. They saw it opening weekend and like, all right, we're done. But jokes on everyone because its budget is $9 million and it's made 86 worldwide.
Yep.
So it's doing perfectly fine financially.
It's the horror method right there.
Yeah, really, and it's gonna bankroll probably 10 other movies like it that are equally shitty. And they're all gonna make money, and the cycle's just gonna repeat itself. But
yep.
Yeah, this movie is just not very good. But box office, I mean, it's Warner Brothers. They just know how to market their horror movies, and they're doing a really good job with there. So, yeah, that's kind of all I got for that movie because I don't want to think about it anymore.
Let's see, 11 years from now, when they get to the 22nd Conjuring movie,
oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
That's when it's really going to pay off at the box office.
When La Llorona tearfully dies as she snaps the Infinity Gauntlet, it's going to be such a wonderful send-off to a character that no one cares about. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
I have nothing else to say about this movie. Fuck this movie.
Yeah, horror movies have never really been my thing, and I just get so tired of jump scares. So, I saw Pet Sematary, decided to skip La Llorona. Probably won't ever come back to it. That's just kind of where I'm at with that one.
It's a good call. Good call.
So, Brennan, I don't know if you have any thoughts. If not, we'll.
You know what? It's making money. Let's go.
So
beautiful.
The next film on the list, actually the first Fox film released by Disney, which it's kind of an interesting choice for that, is Breakthrough. It opened up Easter weekend, had a pretty decent opening then. I think it was a little bit over 20 million domestic last weekend. Right now it's a little over 6 million this weekend. So not pulling Avengers numbers, but pulling pretty decent numbers for a religious movie after Easter. Its prime window is gone, but it's still making a decent haul.
Does anyone think that this movie's not, or is kind of underperforming overall?
Well, its budget's 14 million,
okay.
And it's made 33 worldwide. But I imagine because Fox, or I guess Disney at this point, was really pushing this movie hard as far as like marketing and things like that. They had all the stars, like Christy Metz was out everywhere doing stuff and everything. I feel like they wanted this movie to definitely do better than it currently is doing. But I mean, it's a smart gamble because it's 14 million budget and it's doing okay. Its audience, I mean, the Christianity / faith-based movies always just do really well with that audience because they just all want to go see that movie. And they're going to go see it again and again. And I don't know about you guys, but I saw that when they were marketing this movie, especially like with like trailers and AMC, they were really pushing like to buy like group sales and things like that, which I guess they were hoping that like Christian youth groups would like go to this movie and things like that. So they really tried, but it's just, I don't, if you were ever expecting this movie to break through, slap my knee with that one.
I'm gonna have to leave, guys.
Yeah, sorry, I'm done. Sorry, guys, I'm leaving. This movie was never going to do amazing numbers, so I think they were just smart to keep that budget down. So it's doing fine. I mean, it's already doubled its production budget and a little more. So I guess this movie will probably get past 40 million worldwide, if I'm guessing. Which isn't really bad. And then you figure whatever rental sales or streaming rights things go from that, it'll do fine. This is another this is like Disney's like pocket change that like it would go to like buy like a candy bar with. So it's doing fine. There's nothing really to worry about there.
Disney really didn't have to put much of their own skin in the game because this was still handled primarily by Fox. So they're really not losing much. I mean, yeah, they don't get any money back, but they weren't initially the ones to invest the money anyways. So, it's got a weird amount of star power for a movie like this, though.
Yeah,
really
Topher Grace is
surprised
in
me.
this movie too.
Yeah,
Just
Topher Grace, Luke Coulter, or Mike Coulter in there. Almost called him not Luke Cage. The guy that plays Luke Cage is Mike Coulter, not Luke Coulter. Yeah, and then and then they got Chrissy Metz, so they've got a decent amount of star power, which really surprised me because normally, at these movies you'll have like Kevin Sorbo or some guy who was famous in the '90s, and you're like, I remember that guy.
It's like, yeah, like Topher Grace is in this movie. Just weird. Just kind of feels like there's this one movie a few years, I think it might have been last year. It was that Samson movie? I don't know. You guys probably don't remember that at all. I hardly remember it. But it was like they had Rutger Hauer in it, and that was like the big selling point. It's like, Rutger Hauer's in this movie. But it's like no one's talked about him since what, like 1992. But yeah, like there's like current stars in this movie. It's kind of interesting what they got. I wonder how they got all this, but yeah, it's doing okay. It's whatever.
Yeah, it had Billy Zane and Rutger Hauer.
Exactly. There you go. That's the most faith-based movie to ever do its thing. Like that's perfect.
Yeah.
We also saw Shazam this weekend for 5. That's another superhero one. 5.5 million this weekend. You know what? The film kind of slowed down a little bit after its decent opening weekend worldwide. I mean, it's at 346 million globally. So on a production budget of 80 to 100 million, they're definitely making money now. I'm sure the marketing was somewhat hefty, but they're definitely making money back. The film actually has grossed a little bit less than I expected it to, though. I don't know about what you guys think.
Yeah, it's not, a super success like Aquaman was. I mean, it's doing about Justice League numbers, but without nearly as big of a budget. So it's not going to be a huge hit. And I mean, honestly, for a superhero movie, 346 million is kind of where it's at worldwide right now. That would be a good haul about 10 years ago, but now that's pretty on the low side. So I'm not sure what the future of Shazam will look like, but definitely nothing that's going to be super expansive. I know the reception to it was really big, and so there's, it's got a lot of the critical success behind it, and so maybe that'll keep them going sequel-wise, but and it all depends. They're trying to interconnect everything with the Black Adam movie and with The Rock starring in that. I'm sure that has a pretty built-in audience already. So I think I enjoy the movie. I like kind of the direction they seem to be going with it. So I'm excited to see more from it. It's just not as large of a return on the debut as everyone would have hoped for.
Yeah, it's still doing okay though. So that's something. It's made what 3.5 times its budget. I mean, so like this movie's doing totally fine. I definitely would have expected it to at least get to like 500 million, something like that. But it probably won't even get to 400 million there. But this movie is just it's a comedy, and I'm sure many people, it caught the attention of a lot of people. They might not have. Maybe they were saving their cash for Endgame to go see that 10 different times. But I could totally see Shazam being a movie where people maybe wanted to wait towards like rental or streaming to see it, and maybe by the time the second one comes out, like that fan base has really grown and grown. This movie, it's a really fun movie, and I expect it to grow in their estimation in time. I think this movie in this franchise is okay. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think so too. The DCEU is in a much better place now than it was, I guess, a year and a half ago after Justice League, and they've kind of gotten on their feet a little bit more, and so I think we'll definitely see more of it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, so that kind of wraps up the top 5. Honestly, other than Endgame, there's not a whole lot going on in the movie world right now. Disney did have Penguins that opened last week, and it didn't crack the top 5, but it did crack the top 10, and it's at a little over 1 million this week. So nothing astounding, but again, it's a documentary that's really targeted towards Earth Day, so the expectations for this just weren't huge either.
Yeah, I feel bad for not seeing it.
Yeah, I was gonna try to see it too, but there's just so many other things, and it's just, I mean, it's a nature documentary. You'll see it on Disney Plus at some point when that comes out.
Yeah, I think this is one of the first they announced for Disney Plus as well.
Yeah, that's the big rollout. They're gonna say, "Hey, we got penguins. Come by our streaming service."
Penguins and Dumbo.
We have penguins. Oh, we had this little thing called Endgame, but you don't have to worry about that. Penguins.
That actually brings me to my next point, though. So Disney had just a little statement this week saying, they weren't going after Netflix, which, they're entering the streaming service. But then about 2 days later, it got leaked that there were talks for them to buy the majority stake in Hulu, which is Netflix's biggest competitor, as well as rolling out Disney Plus. So Disney's definitely looking to kill Netflix right now, which will be a pretty interesting fight.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we were always wondering with Disney Plus, like, how are they going to deal with maybe some of Fox's harder content, maybe like hard R, like something like Alien or just something like that doesn't really fit Disney's mold. I mean, and it really just seems like if they're going after majority stake in Hulu, that they're just going to put a lot of that stuff on Hulu, and that would make Hulu a really solid repository of just a bunch of different just great content that we've fallen in love with over like decades or so. This is really interesting. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
yeah, you go there, Collin. You go ahead with
that. Okay, yeah, I think it's definitely poising Hulu to be more of the mature wing of what they're doing. And, it comes at a time where Netflix has really tried to invest in their original content over the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, they do have Stranger Things, but they also have a lot of series and movies that aren't really clicking. And so they're really starting to struggle as Disney gets ready to pull all their stuff off. I'd imagine they'll pull most of the Fox movies off here pretty soon. It's going to be a pretty decent fight between these two.
And another thing to note too is that Comcast is also working towards building their own streaming service because everyone has to have a streaming service now. And one thing to note is that one of the biggest watches on Netflix is Friends. Like, everyone watches Friends and like The Office and things like that. And I'm not sure with the rights for The Office, but for Friends, that's owned by Comcast and NBC. So that would revert to that streaming service as well. So Netflix is slowly starting to lose some things. We're seeing a couple of chinks in the armor. I don't think it'll go away like fully, but we're starting to see that there might be a future leader that isn't Netflix in this space.
Well, it could encourage them to move more in the direction kind of like with Roma. That was pretty controversial this, last award season. But moving into more of these, higher quality, I guess, films instead of just, cranking out a Bright sequel every 8 months.
Oh, boy.
So I think we could see them move into more of a serious in there and do a lot more indie stuff. Because I see that as a pretty big advantage for indie filmmakers because you don't have to worry about, paying to get something released in theaters. You get to kind of sidestep festivals a little bit if you were to go to that route. As far as indie films go, they typically don't cost a lot of money. And if you have something big and well recognized like Roma, I'm sure that brings a pretty good audience in.
Yeah, I think one thing also in particular about Netflix, it was they raised their prices right a few months ago. I think that was either a good decision or a bad decision, and I'll tell you why. I think it's a bad decision if they are meaning to leave the prices there, because Disney Plus, I don't think they'll stay at the prices that they announced, but they are quite low. The cost for Disney Plus is going to be pretty low. And then Hulu also dropped their prices when Netflix raised theirs. And I think it's just a mistake if Netflix wants to raise their prices, especially in a time when things are about to get really competitive and when they might be losing some content coming up. Or it could be a good decision if Netflix raised it because they know things are going to get competitive. They want to make a little bit extra money here, and then maybe they'll drop it when the competition starts. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens, but Netflix definitely has to. They need to try some new things, and that's a weird thing to say because they have been so dominant. They've really changed the game, but I think nothing lasts forever, and they definitely need to. They're huge, right? They just passed 150 million users recently, but they're definitely a service that needs to reinvent at some point.
Yeah, I think so. So it'll be something to keep an eye on, and especially as streaming starts to take over more, just how that plays into the box office. I know Spielberg in particular has been pretty outspoken against, what qualifies as an actual movie, what's something that can win awards, what should be recognized. And so I think we'll see a lot more of that pop up as well as all these services are competing with original content.
Yeah, and even Netflix was another interesting move. I think it was last week where they purchased the Egyptian Theater in LA, so that they're just going to have their own theater just to plop all their stuff in. So when people were just angry about them starting the movie out on the service and then putting it out in the theaters, they're like, "Hey, well, we have our own theater. We can play Roma for 10 months straight. See, it's a real movie." So that's definitely something to also keep in mind here. Netflix is really trying to be creative in how they bring all of their content to the marketplace, which I really appreciate. They're doing some interesting things.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that pretty much wraps it up for this week. Next week, we'll probably still be talking about Endgame.
We'll be talking about Endgame for the rest of our lives.
We'll be talking about Endgame at least until we get to Spider-Man, and then we'll have to talk about it again just because I'm sure it'll bump up.
All right, let's put this out there. So let's go through the predictions here, and you have to say something. Is it passing Avatar, yes or no?
Yes.
At this point, I think, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say yes.
I'm calling it. It's doing it.
Yeah.
How about this?
I think it's going there.
$3 billion, yes or no?
Sure, why not?
I think so. If
let's do it.
It has a lot more power behind it than Infinity War does, and if it has, anything close to the legs that Infinity War had, this will crack $3 billion easy.
All right, good stuff.
But yeah, I fully expect it to be one of the top 5 highest grossing movies of all time next week. So that's my big prediction.
Yep, I'm right there with you, buddy.
For sure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the MovieBabble Podcast, and check back next week as we discuss Ugly Dolls, or more realistically, we talk more about Avengers Endgame. And again, you can check us out online at MovieBabbleReviews.com.